Yes. Welcome, everyone. Marijuana Time Show for March 16th, 2018. I am your host, Joe Klare. Of course, March 16th, otherwise known as Stone Cold Steve Austin Day. You youngins who are listening to or watching this may not get that reference, but you oldins, like myself, you're more likely to get it. You can find us at marijuanatimes.org, myself and many other great writers. Also, you can find every episode of the Marijuana Times Show at marijuanatimes.org. Also, make sure you search Apple Podcasts for the Marijuana Times if you want the audio-only version of the show. For those of you on the go, don't forget you can get the Make Cannabis Great Again hat. You get this dope hat, MakeCannabisGreatAgain.com. Today we're talking about possible legalization in Maryland. Also, a new pilot study out of Pueblo County, Colorado, sheds some light on some of the myths that surround marijuana legalization. Also, San Francisco embracing marijuana lounges. That's right. Doesn't that sound nice? It's just a nice phrase. Marijuana lounges. Maybe that's why I should make this. Marijuana lounge. That's what I'll call it. Live from the marijuana lounge. No, it doesn't. It doesn't click. It's not. It doesn't have the pizzazz that I'm looking for when it comes to describing this show. Marijuana Time Show is brought to you by Natureside Cannabis.com. Site is spelled C-I-D-E. Check out their all-natural organic pesticides. You don't want to use harmful chemicals on your grow if you're a legal cannabis cultivator. You want to grow safe and poison-free. You also want to be regulatory compliant. States that have legal cannabis cultivation, they also have pesticide use regulations. Be regulatory compliant. Natureside Cannabis is actually on the list of approved pesticides in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. Go check them out. NaturesideCannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. Take advantage of their expertise and their line of all-natural organic pesticides. NaturesideCannabis.com. First story. It's from marijuanatimes.org. Julia Granowitz. Maryland might vote on legalizing cannabis this year. Basically, the legislature, if they will allow it, would put a referendum on the fall ballot for Maryland voters to vote on marijuana legalization. Last year, a similar attempt was made, but it failed to pass. Voters and activists hope now that more states have legalized, including Vermont, where lawmakers made the call themselves. There may be a better chance that voters will get heard this year. If this bill makes it through the legislature, it will put a referendum for a constitutional amendment to legalize cannabis on the ballot. Kate Bell, who's a legislative counsel for the Marijuana Policy Project, told CBS affiliate WJZ, quote, "The public is actually well ahead of some lawmakers on this issue. So far, all but one of the states that have legalized marijuana have done so through ballot initiative. The amendment is currently being reviewed by the House Judiciary Committee, where it will be decided, that would be the State House in Maryland, where it will be decided whether it will advance or not. If the committee chooses to see it move forward, then each chamber of the General Assembly will need to approve the amendment with a 60% majority to land it on the ballot this year. If it is approved by the General Assembly, however, there'll be no opportunity for Governor Larry Hogan to veto the bill, and then it'll be up to the voters in Maryland. So if you're in Maryland and you support marijuana legalization, call your reps, call your state legislatures, your state senators, your state house members. Tell them you want this bill passed, and then you'll be able to vote on it in November. And that's the only way it's going to happen in Maryland. A lot of states, you cannot bring ballot initiatives directly to the ballot, bypass the legislature in that manner. So you have to go through the system and go through the jump through the hoops, go through the doors as they are arranged, and that's what they're trying to do in Maryland. This next story is from CPR.org. Pueblo pilot study disputes stereotypes about marijuana use, crime, and homelessness. Adult marijuana use has increased since legalization, according to a pilot research project looking into the impacts of legal marijuana on Pueblo County in Colorado. But overall, researchers found pot is not to blame for many of the county's challenges. Economists with Colorado State University Pueblo's Institute of Cannabis Research found that marijuana sales netted some $35 million for the Pueblo area in 2016. That's after factoring in any marijuana-related increase in costs. Researchers also heard that some homeless people may be drawn to Pueblo for legal pot, but ICR sociologist Timothy McGettigan said Pueblo's homeless problem is more complicated than that, and that recent increases are due more to rising house and utility costs. He said the idea that people have been coming to Colorado from out of state in droves, spending their last dime on cannabis, and then lining up at soup kitchen queues and at social service agencies is not really accurate, he said. The picture is much different than that. The first of its kind pilot research program was funded largely by local and state marijuana taxes and was presented to the Pueblo Board of County Commissioners. Some of the report highlights. And this story, by the way, is linked in the description of this video, as are all the stories that I talk about. Breaks this study down in various ways: social impact on demographics, poverty, homelessness, student use, student prevention, crime. In the crime section, marijuana seizures have decreased in the city of Pueblo, but not in the county, likely due to the larger volume of illegal marijuana grows present in the county. It says overall crime has increased in the city, but has done so on trend with expected averages given the increase in population and decrease in police personnel. The largest increases in crime have been property crime incidents, particularly motor vehicle theft and dangerous drug seizures, particularly heroin. Violent crime has risen only marginally in the city and has decreased in the county. As I said, they break this study down in tons of different ways. Probably would be a landmark study going forward, because there's a lot of myths. And one of the myths, as they point out, is this notion that homeless people are coming in droves to Colorado just to buy legal marijuana. I mean, I don't think homeless people have all that much of a problem buying illegal marijuana. Now, maybe the low prices are bringing some of them in, but it's just to pretend that this is a huge problem, that the homeless people are flowing into Colorado to get legal weed. And if there's no other reason that there would be a ton of homeless people somewhere, as homelessness is increasing in many areas, especially in California, because, as they said, housing costs are rising, utility costs are rising, and a lot of people are losing their homes. A lot of people are being thrown out of their homes. A lot of people are being foreclosed on, kicked out of their apartments, and that's what's leading to the increase in homelessness. And hopefully this will put to bed, at least a little bit, some of the propaganda about some of the effects of marijuana legalization. This is the last story. It's from usnews.com. It's an Associated Press story. San Francisco embraces Amsterdam-style marijuana lounges. That does sound fantastic. As I said, the Associated Press. The smoke was thick and business brisk at the Barbary Coast Dispensary's marijuana smoking lounge, a darkened room that resembles a steakhouse or an upscale sports tavern with its red leather seats, deep booths with high dividers, and hardwood floors. There's nothing like this in Jersey, said grinning Atlantic City resident Rick Thompson, getting high with his cousins in San Francisco. In fact, there's nothing like Barbary Coast Lounge almost anywhere in the United States. A conundrum confronting many marijuana enthusiasts who find it increasingly easy to buy pot, but harder to find legal places to smoke it. Only California permits marijuana smoking in marijuana retailers with specially designed lounges, but it also allows cities to ban those kind of shops. Of course, unsurprisingly, San Francisco has decided not to ban those kind of shops and be a pioneer of the marijuana lounge. Other California cities are warmer to the idea. The city of West Hollywood has approved plans to issue up to 8 licenses. The tiny San Francisco Bay Area town of Alameda said it will allow 2. And Oakland, South Lake, Tahoe each have 1 lounge. Sacramento, Los Angeles, and other cities are discussing the issue but have not authorized any lounges as of yet. As I pointed out before, in so much as marijuana is analogous to alcohol, the notion that there's no places you can smoke except for your house or your private residence is kind of ridiculous. You know, if you're an alcohol drinker, there's tons of bars. You can go to a liquor store and you can buy it yourself and you can go home, that's fine. But you also have the option of going to a bar and mingling with people. And as pointed out in this article and other articles we've talked about, this is also especially true for tourists who don't have a home in the area to go smoke at. If they're at a hotel, if it's not smoke friendly, it's not marijuana friendly, which most hotels are not as of now. That may change in the future as legalization becomes more widespread, more hotels, more, if you're an Airbnb, obviously there's, people have their own rules as far if they're allowed to, if their landlords allow it, things of that nature. But overall, the prevalence of hotels and other tourist places that allow cannabis use, those will increase. And the prevalence of these kind of lounges will certainly increase. There's a demand for places, for people, whether they're tourists or not, to use cannabis. And it will definitely become a more, and other states are looking at, obviously, Maine, Massachusetts, other states with legalization are looking at this, not just California. It'll become more prevalent in the future that these lounges will be something that people will be able to utilize. And it'll become, again, like everything else, more of the mainstreaming of marijuana. Someday it won't be a big deal. You pass by a marijuana lounge and you won't even give it a second thought. Just like when you pass by a bar, you don't give it a second thought. It'll just be part of the fabric of what goes on around people, and it'll recede into the background. And that's when marijuana will have arrived, when it recedes into the background and people don't care about it anymore, which they shouldn't care about it now. Only prohibition is what made people care about marijuana and notice it in the first place. As I've said many times, if you're watching a TV show or a movie and someone's drinking a beer, if someone asked you after the movie what they were drinking, you would have no idea. You probably wouldn't remember they were drinking a beer. Unless you really thought about it and maybe noticed it at the time, you probably didn't. But they're smoking a joint. You say, oh yeah, the guy who was smoking a joint in that movie. I obviously know that. That movie I saw 5 years ago, there was a guy smoking a joint in it. I still remember that because it's so out of the ordinary. But one day, it won't be out of the ordinary. And that was when the normalization and mainstreaming of marijuana will have been achieved. We'll continue to do our small part to achieve that mainstreaming and normalization of cannabis here at the Marijuana Times Show. It's March 16th, 2018. Thank you to naturesidecannabis.com for being a proud sponsor of the show. naturesidecannabis.com. They're organic, all natural pesticides. Go check them out. It's the Friday show. It's the last show of the week. It's now officially the weekend. Go enjoy. It's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. Have fun. Don't drink too much. Maybe partake a little bit more of the green on this green holiday. Get it? Puns. Cannabis puns. It's one of the many things I specialize in. Thanks everybody for checking us out here at the Marijuana Times Show. And we'll see you next week.